I started dancing at the age of around 6 or 7, and prior to that I was doing gymnastics classes, so that was the very beginning of love of movement for me. And I had a friend in my gymnastics classes that went to ballet, and I joined her one day and I thought, what is this amazing thing, movement to music, you know, expressing yourself, and I completely fell in love with it. And from that day on, I didn't look back. I found so much joy through dancing, and I loved my ballet lessons. And bit by bit, I had teachers that said, oh, actually, she's quite good at this. Maybe you should up the classes. Of course, you know, my mum driving my sister here and driving me there and, you know, across London and everything, what parents do. And I went to the Royal Ballet School Junior Associates program. So that was just Saturday lessons at first. And I auditioned for White Lodge and I didn't get in, and which I really love now, because I love being able to tell this story to people and say, you know, if it doesn't happen the first time, keep trying, because it might happen the next. So I wouldn't have done it any differently. So I continued on with my outside of school training. I went to a normal secondary school, so I was very academics orientated, and then I carried on with the mid-associates. And Jackie Dumont, who was head of the mid-associates at that time, came and watched our class at the end of the year. And she said, why hasn't Yasmine auditioned for the Royal Ballet School? And my mother answered, well, she didn't get in last year, so we didn't think of trying again this year. And so I went for a private audition, and Gayleen Stock was the director of the school at that time. And she offered me a place straight away. And she said she's even doing a little signet in Swan Lake with the Royal Ballet Company next season. So that was really exciting. And so I joined in year 8, so that's ages 12 to 13. And it was a very, very talented year group that I came into. So the pressure was on, because, you know, I was joining all these amazing little dancers, and I had to catch up because they'd already had an amazing year of training through the Royal Ballet system. So I loved it. I found it so exciting, and of course you're in the middle of Richmond Park. I always call it the Hogwarts of the ballet world when you are at White Lodge. It's kind of weird and wonderful. And so I sort of progressed year after year, and of course it is competitive, and it is, you know, challenging for a young child to sort of keep up with the training and stay strong. And I was really, really lucky to have my parents completely by my side the whole way through. And so I progressed through the Royal Ballet School, got a place at the upper school at the age of 16, which was really exciting. So then we were London based, and that's when you're kind of at the peak of your teenage years. So that was all very fun. So I did a year of my first year at upper school. I then did 2 days of the second year, and Gayleen Stock came she called me in the office and she said, so I think you're ready to go to the final year, you're ready to audition for a job. So I'm moving you to the 3rd year. So from one day to the next, I had to go to Freed, buy a new leotard to be in the 3rd year, and join the 3rd year the next day. So there again, I had a similar experience of when I joined White Lodge, joining into a year group that was already formed, you know, with the friendships, etc. And so it was a little bit challenging joining a year group that was like, why is she joining our year? They obviously know something we don't. So it was, again, a lot of fun, thrown in the deep end. And in April 2010, Gayleen Stock called a few names out. And when it was my turn to go in, she said, Monica Mason, who was then the director of the Royal Ballet Company, would like to offer you a job. Of course, I burst into tears. I'm so excited. It's kind of, everything's come full circle. It was a complete dream come true of mine to get into this company. And she said, but that's not it. You start next week. So it was so exciting. I was ready. I was so ready. So I completed my upper school days in a year and a half, as opposed to 3 years, which it usually is. So I got my job at 17. I just turned 18 when I joined the company. And there again, a third time, joining halfway through a season. All the young ones that had joined in the September before, you know, they'd already kind of found their feet and settled into company life. And I literally went from turning left to the school one day to turning right to the company the next. And I even have a funny memory of one of the company members saying, "Shouldn't you be in school uniform? It's not holidays or anything." I said, "No, I've joined as a company member today." So it's nice to look back on that moment. So of course, big dream come true, and you know, you're just so starstruck standing next to all these idols of yours, you know, that you grew up aspiring to and watching and adoring. And it's funny because slowly they start to become your friends. So it's an interesting progression. But yeah, of course, then the work begins. You know, you're a small fish in a very big pond of extremely talented dancers, and you want to get noticed. You want to stand out without rocking the boat with your peers. So I was, again, really lucky to progress quite quickly through the ranks. I think it took me 2 years to first artist, 2 years to soloist, 2 years to first soloist, 1 year to principal. So it was quite a quick trajectory, which I wouldn't have had it any other way. I've absolutely loved it. And of course, reaching principal dancer of the Royal Ballet was the biggest dream in the world. I think a teacher that gave me some good advice said, take your work seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. And I think that's really lovely, because what we do is so important. And of course, being at the Royal Ballet, the standard is just incredible. It's creme de la creme, if I might say so myself. And I feel like, of course, we have to give so much importance and work behind everything we do, and we have to perform at the highest level and approach our roles with so much depth of research and interpretation. But at the same time, if you have a bad day, or if a performance doesn't go according to plan, you know, spotlessly, you can't be so hard on yourself, because we're not robots, we're human beings at the end of the day. And, you know, human error happens, or you slip, or, you know, maybe your weight wasn't quite in the right place. And I think to finish a performance and be so upset, and I've been through it myself, I've finished a performance and I've thought, that was really not my best, and you just go down a rabbit hole and you start overanalyzing, and you bring it into your personal life as well, and then you hold on to it. And I think it's such a shame, because what we do is we bring joy to so many people that come and watch our performances, and we offer an escape. And then for the curtain to come down and for us to then be upset by what we've done is such a shame. So I've learned over the years, of course, we're all perfectionists, so we're striving for excellence. But it's important to kind of be light about it, you know. Oh well, it's not like I did it on purpose, you know, these things happen. So I think take your work seriously, but don't take yourself so seriously is a really nice one to remember. The role of Juliet means a lot to me, because not only is it a role I love, but it's a role that was given to me at a young age, and I think it was just the perfect moment. It was a moment where I really was ready to stand out and get a lot more exposure, and I'm so lucky that Kevin saw these characters in both Matthew and I, that we would work so well together. And of course, it was the very beginning of our beautiful partnership that has now spanned over 10 years, and we've danced such an incredible arc of ballets and characters together, both debuts and, you know, ballets that we've done with other people before. And I think I really relate to the character of Juliet. I find it very comfortable to click into who she is. And I love that there's a development over the 3 acts, where she enters and she's effervescent, she's excited, and the world's her oyster. And of course she comes from a privileged background. So I think, you know, she's used to the exposure of, you know, these wonderful balls that her parents would throw, and she's easy in that environment. And then of course she meets Romeo, and there are these fireworks that go off, and she's never felt this way before. And it all just clicks into place so beautifully. But of course, you've got the feuding families that are trying to keep them apart. And it's such a wonderful web that Kenneth MacMillan has worked into this ballet of all these little side stories that happen as well. And I think the beauty with a ballet like Romeo and Juliet, when you're an audience member, is you can sit and you can look at one side of the stage and there will be a little story going on in each corner, and every performance it will be different. There'll be something new to see every single time, and I love that. Be it the main characters or be it, you know, the corps de ballet that are working their stories. So I think this role symbolizes my youth when I was given this opportunity, and I always love trying to tap into that with years more experience, but going back to those days where I sort of first interpreted the role. And the drama is so wonderful. I saw an interview with a ballerina, and she said, we love to suffer on stage. And it's true in a sense. I think we love the escapism of living another character's story. And it moves you, it gives so much, it's so rewarding to feel so drained at the end of a performance. It's the best feeling ever. And previous to dancing Juliet this season, we just did Onegin, and Matthew and I performed the leading roles of Onegin and Tatiana. Again, a role that's very, very dear to my heart. And it was Matthew's debut that he was doing. So it really spanned 10 years, almost to the day, that we did Olga and Lenski together, the younger roles, and Tatiana and Onegin. Other roles that I've loved, definitely Manon. I did that last season as a debut with William Bracewell, and it was incredible. I'd been a part of this ballet for many years, but to finally get the role of Manon was amazing. I think, again, to live a dramatic story on stage of a character that has so many layers and has gone through such an arc as well from start to finish was really moving. And I think all of these roles, you leave a part of yourself on the stage. You know, you leave a part of yourself in those characters that you interpret. And it's definitely another one that's on my list of favorites. I think the music is so beautiful, the story is timeless and so well told. The choreography is so challenging and intricate that it's a joy to work on it in the studio, but you have to come in and work at 100%. You can't half-bake anything you do. From start to finish, you have to give it 100%, because if your weight's not in the right place, you kind of sacrifice what your partner's going to need to do to make it work. So I love the challenges of working on it in the studio and building the trust and the strength together. I think the beauty of the story ballets are that you can kind of, once you've done the work in the studio, you've added all your layers, it's time to step on stage and kind of let that go and let your instinct take over. There's a lot of room for that. There's so much artistic license in these story ballets, and I think that's what makes it so rewarding, that you can have a sense of letting your body just click into it and seeing what happens on stage. And a lot of it is reacting in the moment, how your partner is responding to you, how you react back to this character or that character. With the classics, I feel you need so much more in place in terms of how is my body feeling right now? How strong do I feel? If you have a cold, it makes it really difficult to still push through those whopper ballets. But roles like Odette Odile and Aurora in Sleeping Beauty, they are an Everest, and you're constantly climbing and the difficulty level is at the max. So all your rehearsals have been the sort of foundation layers to then, once you step on stage, you're kind of crossing your fingers and your toes that everything goes according to plan. Of course, there is the artistic element of these classical ballets, but I think the strongest part does have to be that fundamental technique that's there to support everything else. I enjoy them when I'm on the road to doing them, in the sense that once I've stepped on stage, I've done those first steps, I either feel, okay, I'm in it, or I think, okay, I feel above the floor, I'm going to need to really concentrate and do what I can. that's all about how your body's feeling at that moment. Human beings have all these, ups and downs, especially as a woman. Things change, and it really does affect how your performance feels. Same with Odetto Deal. It is a marathon ballet. It's not a sprint. So you have to understand how to pace yourself, how to get the most out of your muscles, how to get the best endurance and stamina. And of course, that really is the work that you put in the studio. And again, once you step on stage, you have to take it step by step and not think, oh my God, Act 3, the fouettés, scared, Once you start Act 2, no, you have to just go on and step by step. But the beauty and the reward that comes with performing those ballets and feeling like you've done them well is the best feeling in the world. I'd say my favorite contemporary ballet is Wayne McGregor's Infra. I absolutely adore that ballet. I was at the Royal Ballet School Upper School when it premiered here, and I watched, I think, the opening night performance, and I was just absolutely in love with it. I thought it was so stunning, and when I joined the company, I wanted nothing more than to dance that final pas de deux that Marianella and Ed created. And so I was really lucky at some point to be given that role, and I danced it again with Matthew, which was so lovely. And we performed it abroad for many performances outside as well. And I think that Max Richter music, it's so deep and gets in your blood, and I love it so much. So I think that's my favorite. I love Wolfworks as well, and again, it's Max Richter music, so I definitely have a soft spot for Max and the music he creates. But I think, yeah, those two are some of my favorite ballets. Coming up, I have my debut of Alice in Chris Wheeldon's Alice in Wonderland, which is really exciting. I was a part of Chris's creation when he first made the ballet. I was an original flower couple and card couple in the corps de ballet, and so have sort of progressed in this ballet every time it's come back in various roles, and really looking forward to taking the lead this time. We're really, really lucky to have amazing healthcare at the Royal Ballet. We've got dance psychologist, nutritionist, physiotherapists, masseurs, chiropody, strength coaches, Pilates. It's just amazing. I like to do Pilates at least once or twice a week. I feel like this body conditioning helps keep all the muscles engaged and working correctly, and if we see any imbalance, we can correct that in the Pilates room with our wonderful Jane Paris. And then with all of our strength coaches, they are absolutely fantastic working with all of the dancers in the gym. They have such a trained eye, they come and watch performances with us as well, and they've learned a lot about ballet that I think a lot of them maybe didn't have exposure to before. And they find that really fascinating. With our amazing physiotherapists, they almost act like psychologists to us as well. We kind of slump on the beds and talk about what's going on in our lives, and they're there to listen and, offer friendly advice. And I think it's so great that we have access to all of this sports science and approach to healthy dancers. And immediately, if there's a little thing here or there, all of the physios are there immediately advising us, and it's really lucky that we have that support. I think coping with pressure is part of our profession, and I think when you're a student in training, you're used to a certain level of pressure when it comes to your solos evenings, when you have little performances in front of a small audience. But of course, that pressure starts amplifying the higher up the ranks you get. And then with things like cinema broadcasts, live streams, it adds even more weight to it. And so I worked with Britt, who is our sports psychologist, and she taught me so much about kind of coping mechanisms and better ways to approach one's work. And it's funny because when I first watched a ballet many, many years ago, I think as an 8-year-old, I thought, oh, these dancers must have daily jobs and then come in and do a show. And quite often when I meet audience members, that's the question I get asked. So what's your real job? And then you do this kind of on the side. To which I try and give them more information about, no, this is a complete all-consuming profession. You're in it from the moment you wake up to the minute you go to sleep. And it's so funny whenever I get asked that question. But I love the performance psychology aspect, because it's so much more than just steps. It's so much more than just the technique in the studio that you're building on and then you go and you do your performance. No, you go deeper into it. You find ways of sort of saving your muscles, working more efficiently, concentrating on specific moments. If something happens in the moment that didn't go according to plan, you box that up, you put it aside, you focus on the task at hand. And it's a much more efficient way of working. And Britt has worked with so many amazing Olympic athletes, and she's brought her knowledge into the dance world as well. And it's great that she can incorporate that. So she's been really, really essential. She was really, really essential for me, especially when I was working on Swan Lake doing the cinema relay, because I would enter the studio and I would rehearse thinking that I was on stage already. So I mentally thought, if I put myself on stage, imagining those cameras on me, I'm going to be better prepared for when that actually happens. Wrong. She told me that I needed to be present in the rehearsal room at that moment, doing the task at hand. And she made me draw a little dot on my hand to remind me to come back to the present. And it's so interesting just having those little coping mechanisms from someone that has so much experience and knowledge. It helps us so much. She even works with dancers coming back from injury as well, with any kind of performance anxiety, and it's invaluable to have that support. With the cinema relays, I think they have been an incredible way to get what we do out to people that might not necessarily be able to come to the opera house. So it's an amazing way to outreach ballet to different audiences, or maybe people that might not be able to afford coming to the opera house. You know, you can see it up close and personal from a cinema near you. And I think this has been an incredible initiative. However, it also adds a huge amount of pressure on the performers, because when you do a live performance, it's a moment in time. And you know, if there's a slip or a trip, you're like, okay, let's just brush past that. But on a cinema broadcast, it's of course there forever. So I feel like what we do is kind of immortalized. So it does add a different element of that kind of perfectionist tendency that we all have, that we want everything to work out perfectly. And I've been so fortunate to, I think I've done Romeo and Juliet, Giselle, Sugar Plum, Sleeping Beauty, Swan Lake, I've done a concerto, I've done Elite Syncopations, I've done a few sort of triple bills as well as main works. And the feeling afterwards is just fantastic. And I'm so happy to have been given the opportunity to do that, because I've had so many wonderful messages from people in parts of the world that never would have been able to come and see a performance, that have absolutely loved it. So I'm really happy that we're able to do them. And it is definitely another element that we have to add on to our performances, which has been fascinating, because it really brings in an element of psychology, dance psychology, into the picture. So that's been really interesting for me as well, to dive deeper into that, on ways to keep calm, keep focused, and keep really present and in the moment, rather than thinking of the big picture. I've co-written some children's books with a wonderful children's author called Chitra Soundar. We have 4 books, and they involve 5 characters. We've got Yara, Charlie, Dante, Momaka, and Indu. They all come from different backgrounds. We wanted to make this book, these series, really inclusive. And the inspiration behind these books came from the COVID lockdown, where we all had a lot of time to think. And I was contacted by a ballet school in India, and I worked with them several times during the COVID lockdown and offered them advice and coaching, etc. And I thought, wow, these children are so passionate and they're working in really difficult circumstances, and I would love to inspire these younger generations to continue with their dreams. So that's where the idea was born. I was also hearing that schools were cancelling dance as part of the curriculum, and I found this to be really sad. So that's where the idea was born, and I got in touch with Chitra. And funnily enough, her agent, when she passed her my email, she was like, I don't know who this person is or what's going on. And the agent said, no way, I'm obsessed with Yasmine. She's incredible. And so she was really excited. And so we got to work, which was fun. So we were sort of, throwing ideas to each other, coming up with the different characters and the different stories. And each book focuses on a character. And each book has a ballet that we talk about and we focus on. So book 1, we focus on Sleeping Beauty. And the Rose Adage is kind of the central point of this book. And we try and bring in little dilemmas for each book that the children have to work out how they can solve it by working together, teamwork, bringing in the lovely bakery that is, something that I really love, that's very central to the books as well. And each character has their highlight moment, and they always resolve the situation. So I hope that this can get children away from screens and back into books and continue to find a passion in dance, whatever shape or form. Outside of the ballet world or my ballet life, I love watching good movies. So I love going to places like the Gate Cinema, watching some nice movies. I love traveling. I'd say that's my greatest passion. So when I have some time, even if it is for a gala performance abroad, I'll always be the sort of adventurer. I'll always find a little hour to just pop outside and get the vibe of a city. And I always want to try the cuisine. So I'm a big foodie. I love cooking myself. My husband and I have done a lot of cooking, especially during the lockdown, which actually was a lot of fun to have time to be able to do a lot of cooking together. And so, yes, definitely traveling the world, experiencing other cultures and trying some other good cuisine. I think that's my absolute favorite thing to do outside of ballet. I went to Iran when I was around the age of 4, and I think again around the age of 6. But that's the last time. I have a few faint memories, and maybe seeing some photos and albums have sort of helped embed those memories. But I remember there were some beautiful fountains with lights. I remember visiting a carpet shop, and I saw this little mini kilim, and I remember causing havoc in the store because I wanted my own mini carpet, thinking I was Princess Jasmine and it would be a magic carpet and I could fly on it. But those are 2 memories that have really stuck with me. My plans for the future and dreams for the future, I hope to have many happy, healthy years here at the Royal Ballet, and who knows what the future holds. I love working with younger students, coaching and advising them, because I remember so much being so hungry for knowledge and advice when I was their age. So I hope that I can really give back to the younger generations to inspire them, to encourage them, and remind them that above all they are human beings, that they have to be kind to their bodies. But obviously determination and striving for excellence is really important, because we have to continue performing at the level that we are. And if you look back, 30, 40, 50 years ago, the way the dancers were performing, and you look at how we are now, it's incredible the jump that we've made. So it's possible that in 50 years' time, they're going to be doing things that we didn't even comprehend were possible. So yeah, I think I'd love to work with the younger generations, and who knows what the future holds.